writing was really good on the show.
Mm-hmm.
They were good at eventually, when they got to know the characters, of writing to them, so that probably was an amalgam of real life and the characters, and sort of a melding of the two. I think that the writing was so good, at least early on. The boundaries were a little blurred, not in a bad way. I mean, just, the writers would play to your strengths.
Strength, yes, yes. Yeah, art follows life or life follows art. However, yes, there's a lot of similarities to things.
My son was actually on the show for 5 years. I suppose there were things that he did or said the few times that we got to work together. There was that kind of verisimilitude.
Sure. My breakup, he was sleeping with someone else. So was Kenny. It was, yes.
That was and I'm sure Kim was not thrilled when she left the show, not of her own volition. Maybe it was of your own volition. Actually, I don't know. Maybe, okay.
No, it wasn't.
So I think, like any breakup, we'd like to be the breaker-upper.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I think that when those decisions are made for you and you don't see them coming,
right.
It's a pretty painful realization. And I just had a baby. So I was, I had just had this little girl, and then I'm going to die. And recently we were clearing out the garage in the Cape, and I found this huge garbage bag of letters that evidently, I don't know why, they just ended up I don't know, but they were letters that had been sent after this character died. And, I think it was a complicated situation. I don't think it was handled very well. But then how do you handle a brain tumor? Isn't that a song from My Fair Lady? Oh, no, that's How Do You Handle a Woman? Anyway, I'm sorry. That's really disrespectful. I should just forget I said that. Julie, when she got let go and didn't know she was going to be let go, she went off into the sunset with red buttons. I don't know which is more disturbing, going off in the sunset with red buttons or dying of a brain tumor. I don't know. But, and Alec Baldwin left.
Red buttons.
No, I know. It was just that Julie didn't know that was coming either.
No. You're caught off guard. It's horrible.
And Doug Sheehan didn't know. I mean, so they were saving money because our 4 salaries equaled one of the others. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
oh my
right.
God.
I know exactly.
Anyway.
Yeah, it is very.
So it was painful. It was very painful.
Very, very painful.
But that's showbiz. That's showbiz.
There
and
you
here
go.
we are.
I always wanted to do more. I felt that Ginger was a little underutilized. But what can you do with that too? I mean, so you make your moments the best that you can make them, and have them be great. And was that then there was the shock of being written off the show, which was like, wait a minute, that was not the plan. My plan was to develop Ginger more in a deeper level, because that character had so much to give, and it was brought out by the Priscilla Pointer episode. I mean, all of that, there was a underlying, volcano in there that needed to be explored, that was not getting explored. And in there is the rub and the heartache and the heartbreak when something that you think is going to move forward and develop then is just cut short. And David Jacobs told me that we were going to have more. And so I was pretty shocked. He told me, someday you'll want off this show because you'll be so bored, Kim. I said, no, I don't think so. No, and I never was bored. I always loved going to work. I always loved being there. I loved my people, our cast. I loved everything about our show. So no, I was not prepared. And no, that was not part of the plan that I had conceived in my mind.
Were you ever given any sort of reasoning behind that move?
Yeah, I was. Jim Houghton wanted off the show. He
wanted, couldn't you just kill him and you could have stayed on?
Thank you. And here's the concept. Couldn't have Jim told me that before he went to the producers? I thought he and I were pretty close. I always enjoyed him, enjoyed working with him, and he was always very professional. But that to me, of course, was not, because it would have been nice had he shared that with his partner, so I
Yeah.
could have had a plan B to counteract what he was
Yeah.
presenting.
Well,
So, that was a real hard time for me. hmm And then
mhm.
when I did find out, I was, hustling fast to make ways that ginger would be viable. Because in terms of what I knew, the demographics liked ginger. They liked Ginger and Kenny.
Well, the two of you were drop dead gorgeous, so that didn't hurt.
Oh,
That was
well,
nice. No,
thank
you were
you.
adorable, and you were the youngest couple, and I think it was you had a baby, and that was
Right.
I don't know, it was, but I didn't know that backstory before, so I wasn't aware of that.
Well, this is the first time I've ever talked about it.
You have to die for people to got to get a fakakta brain tumor and have a baby. I don't really remember
Yeah.
anything offhand that I was asked to do that didn't feel authentic. There was one thing at the very end where the producer writer had written a little something when I was dying about the little girl that was my daughter, and I said, "What is this?" Nobody would say this because I was leaving anyway, so who cares? I said, "This is." So I wrote a monologue about redheads because she was a redhead, and I wrote about touching a redhead's hair was good luck, which is true, and I wrote about people say they can't wear pink, which is not true, or red, which is not true,
Not true.
and I wrote this little
Yes.
monologue, and I'm off the show. 25 years go by, maybe almost 30. I'm in New Orleans. We're with a good friend of ours. We're going to a restaurant. It's 2 in the afternoon. We go to this little ethnic restaurant. He lives there. They're not open. We go to the one across the street. It happens to be open. There's one other couple sitting in there. It's that producer and his wife. They're sitting in there having lunch. I'm ahead of Sam and his friend, our friend. I walk up to them and I go, "Hey, haven't seen you since you killed me off." And he had the graciousness to say, my mother commented on your monologue and said what a good job I did writing it. And I told her that I didn't write it. I told her that you wrote it. I go, you've just redeemed yourself. Thank you.
Okay, that was a mensch.
My husband said when I did my goodbye video, nobody looked that good after chemotherapy. Nobody, nobody, nobody.
No, we didn't.
Well, there were no intimacy coordinators in those days. Let's talk about that. Anyway, that's another story.
That's another
I
story.
I didn't see them getting tested for STDs either. They should have put that in there, but nobody was talking in those terms back in those days. And then I get raped, and Richard's going on the hot tub with Donna and whatever. I don't know. Yeah. But then you don't know what you don't know. So I
Right.
guess there was a lot of sort of turning the other eye, not turning a blind eye rather, and I don't know. That's what a soap opera is based on, right? So this was a nighttime soap, and that comes into play a lot.
But it seems that people are a little more upfront to tell you exactly what they're thinking, what they're not thinking. If you're making a move that isn't well thought of, you don't have any problem with saying, "Hey, stop that." But a lot of those things have come through the Me Too movement and so many things that have happened since we were in a prominent position
Yeah,
there.
because the intimacy coordinator, I was sort of semi joking before, but I'm
Right.
very serious. An
Mhm.
intimacy coordinator is probably was very late coming to the party.
Yes.
And obviously, this has come up time and time
hmm
again. So I think the fact that there are people on the set who are looking out, not just from a sexual standpoint, but are you comfortable playing a rape victim? How can we help you through this? Are you comfortable being the perpetrator? I mean, it's just as
hmm
difficult on the other side. Is this okay for you? It's interesting that those those discussions, you never
Didn't
thought
happen.
of having them.
Yeah.
It wouldn't even
Right.
occur to you, you
Right.
know?
Right.
God, we were so young and dumb.
I
Anyway,
know.
yeah. As an actress, you don't realize when you're younger, they're really waiting for the solution to come through the door. They're really waiting for you to come in and solve the
To
problem.
answer the
But that
call, right?
never occurs to you because you
Mhm.
think it's you're the problem. And you've got to be, fatter, thinner, taller, shorter, older, younger, whatever.
I remember this in the early day. You used to say you wanted to be a therapist, a psychiatrist, so you could understand the world in this business better. To me, you've always been very grounded and level-headed and sensitive since we're redheaded people.
Oh, well,
But
this is fake now, but you and I know it used to be real.
well, yeah, I keep going red.
Unless you reinvent your, all right, I don't want to use that word, unless you find other pockets of
Right.
yourself to explore, all that ability and skill and life experience and knowledge and wisdom and everything
Hmm.
else, it has no place to go.
Where does it go? Exactly. And exactly one day, profound day, I was thinking that now I feel I have so much to offer. The irony of that business.
Well, not just that business. I think unless you're a
Yeah,
Supreme Court
true.
judge like Ruth Bader Ginsburg or a therapist, you can't work forever. I mean, you can work as a therapist, you can be dead here in the chair and they're just going to keep talking anyway. So that doesn't really matter. And, but there are no other careers where that is permissible. And it's unfortunate because we're the biggest demographic in the country. We're all living longer. They don't know what to
Right.
do with us because they don't know how to deal with people over 85.
I did let a couple of things go out there that maybe I shouldn't have. I don't know.
It'll go to my grave, some of the things that I know, and I'm sure Kim feels the
Yes,
same way.
exactly. Constance and I had lunch together on and off the set in various places in Burbank. And but for me, Julie was like, she was, and Dawn, everybody was great, but Julie was someone I saw, at the Belle of Amherst and a lot of her productions around, and was always such an inspiration. And she was very spiritual and very connected, I would say, as Dawn Murray. And actually, I feel like all of us were pretty connected in whatever realm you want to say that, but I would say the empathy and compassionate part of the human spirit. I think we all pretty much resonated there on some level.
Are you trying to make me cry? Is that what you're trying to do?
No, but go ahead.
It was a sweeter, gentler time, darling. Even though even though Don thought it was going a different direction, it was a sweeter, gentler time. And I think that the fact that the show even resonates anymore for people is astonishing because it's obviously a vintage
Well, I think
piece.
people are looking for that. There's a simplicity, something comforting, and I think that is true about Knots Landing. For as far out as it gone from maybe the original trajectory, it still is a kinder, gentler place, as you said, the
Yeah,
cul-de-sac.
yeah, yeah.
It was great seeing you.
Thanks, Kim. This has been a real joy. All right, sweetie pie.
Mwah, mwah.
Bye, honey. Bye. Bye,
Bye
sweetheart.
bye.